Welcome to the Mavens Do It Better podcast. And now, your host, Heather Newman.
In this episode, we speak with Erica Toelle, information management thought leader focused on compliance and governance. Erica is a product evangelist at Record Point, an internationally recognized speaker on SharePoint, Office 365, and productivity. She shares best practices and experiences with practitioners through conference sessions, workshops, webinars, online publications. Basically, Erica is everywhere in the SharePoint space. She's a dear friend, and I'm really excited to speak with her today about her experiences in the SharePoint space and being a woman in technology. So this is Heather Newman, and today we're talking with Erica Toelle, a good friend, colleague in the SharePoint Office 365 world, and wanted to talk to her about being an expert in user adoption, because she brings that to the table and lots of other good things. So Erica, hello.
Hey Heather, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So where are you working? What are you doing now? What's going on these days?
Yeah, so I'm the product evangelist at Record Point. Focused on records management, compliance, and information management. So I'm very excited by the end-user adoption opportunities in that area, because it's so important to have companies have a solution in those areas, and in order for it to work, people have to use it.
Absolutely. Yeah, I know you and I kind of share a love of that. We both speak on that topic in different wonderful ways, I think, at events. So yeah, these podcasts are, I love the word Maven. Obviously that's the name of my company, and so it's the sort of self-proclaimed expert is the actual definition of the word. But I love talking to friends who've been working in the industry a long time and really become experts at what they do. So how long have you been working on sort of the end user adoption angle?
Well, I started out in management consulting, focused on organizational change management, which is kind of the means, whereas end user adoption is the end you're trying to get to. And actually ended up focusing on SharePoint because of the interesting end user adoption challenges it presented.
Right, or the dilemma, I guess, sometimes, as some people
very much a dilemma.
say. Absolutely. So as far as end user adoption, is there a methodology that you stick to or that you've created, or things that you really like out there in the universe that you pluck either from Microsoft or other places that you recommend to people?
Yeah, certainly. I mean, one of the things that's great about this space is you can get a doctorate degree in organizational design or other aspects of organizational change management.
Right.
So there's a lot of research out there and things that people have discovered to work. I think the challenge in our space is that a lot of the methodologies are overkill for what we can do in our space. People don't have a six-figure end user adoption budget on our projects.
What? Really? Yeah.
So we're looking at what can we do with what we have that'll make the greatest impact. And while, I don't think it's ever been the perfect solution on a project, we are able to add value, if you will, and get more people to use it than if we had done nothing.
Sure. Do you have, not naming clients or anything like that necessarily, but is there somebody in the late past that you've felt like has done a really good job rolling out, say, SharePoint or Office 365 or both or all of that you can talk to a little bit, like how they did it?
Yeah, I can say that they were in oil and gas.
Okay.
And what they did is had about a 4-person project team rolling out the SharePoint intranet, and they were really focused on document management and collaboration, and functionality offered above file shares, which is what they had previously. And they had one of those 4 people dedicated to understanding and feeling the pain of the end users, if you will. And so, they were the business analyst and the end user adoption person, but they were empowered with listening to people, understanding how they felt about it from week to week, and the project team would actually have conversations about that, and troubleshoot and respond and mitigate risks that were presented by basically people's feelings, which sounds really like hippie, if you will.
Yeah, human.
But it's human. And I think just the fact that they were able to have a place in their project, in their conversations, for that type of a dialogue really helped. And then also, I was involved because I would meet with this person for about an hour every week or two, and we would talk about how to solve and mitigate the risks that she had been identifying. So I think that having somebody who'd done this a bunch of times and could bring the experience and learnings from those projects, but not having to pay that expert full time,
right,
was a really good choice.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I think I don't know that with executive buy-in, I know that's usually a really key factor, and it's kind of one that's at the top. Do you have suggestions for people about that, like how to get that executive buy-in if it wasn't their idea?
Yeah, I mean, I think first of all, you need to identify the right executive. Mm-hmm. Depending on what you're building, you might not need the CEO of the company to be endorsing it. A better choice might be, the VP of sales if it's a group, if it's a solution for the sales group. So first of all, pick the right person. Second of all, have very clear and specific things that you want them to do, whether it's clicking send on an email communication or advocating for the project at a higher level to get more budget. Whatever it is, just be very specific with them, because they're more likely to do it and actually follow through than if you're vaguely asking them to support the project.
Gotcha. Yeah, I think that's great. And in sort of, I think you and I both sort of reference different checklists. They're fairly the same, in talking about this. And I feel like, I guess, is there one piece of it that it's always so different, right? But is there one piece of it that is consistently the outlier that people just either don't do, won't do, you know what I mean, out of sort of all the things in the adoption, sort of what you should do kind of thing?
Well, I'm going to maybe answer that in two parts.
Okay.
So first of all, people are getting really good about doing this, but it still is by far the most important, which is having a change champion program. Having people who are embedded, working in the business, in the groups that you're trying to affect the change, because they're the ones that are going to tell you if there's a risk that needs to be mitigated. So, Number one. But people are getting pretty good at that. Mm-hmm. So the second one that maybe we should do better is seeing is believing. I think we're still sometimes asking people to provide requirements when they don't even understand the tool.
Okay, yeah.
So, if they don't understand the tool, they can't provide good requirements. And so it's kind of a chicken and the egg problem. Mm-hmm. So just looking for those success stories, documenting them well through video and screenshots, or even being able to show it live to other people so that they can have that aha moment.
Right.
So the whole goal is to create aha moments.
Aha. Like it.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
And then maybe have them use the more baseline solution for a bit before they start giving a lot of customization requirements, because the customizations are what drive up the cost of the project really fast.
Sure.
And if it's something that's so nice to have or isn't that important that they're kind of grasping at straws because they don't really understand the baseline yet,
right,
then it's just a waste of money.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. Those are great. So with adoption and campaigns and stuff like that, so there's sort of the, brand new Office 365 installation or installation of something brand new. It doesn't even have to be, Microsoft or all of that. And then there's the ongoing sort of new hire or people coming into a department. I think, do you see those all as sort of the same adoption path for the most part? Or do you think they have some nuances, obviously, but anything sort of big and striking between those, between sort of a new or a migration or that new hire? Anything there that sticks out?
Yeah, I think they're a bit different in the situation.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're just moving brand new from on-premise SharePoint, file shares, or something to Office 365, I'm actually become a big proponent of just get the content in there and don't change the business processes or enhance them too much until after the content's moved. So they're kind of doing the same thing, but with the new user interface. Let them get used to that just a little bit, and then in the second project, do the transformation of the content and changing of the information architecture or building solutions to make it more optimized and to be more productive. Because again, that way people are understanding the baseline functionality before they're now giving requirements to customize it.
Right.
And then for the new hire, I think it's less about maybe training them on here's how you use the software and more about here's how we've implemented it and here's the specific solutions we have. Here's our team's solution for sharing and collaborating on files. So it's more step-by-step business process oriented instead of training on general functionality.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
For training on general functionality, you know, I'm a big believer in context training tools, and I wasn't paid to say that.
Not yet.
But I really think that they make the most sense for
Right.
that general education, because
Sure.
then what that means is people are right there when they're trying to upload a document, clicking on the help button, and it tells them how to upload the document.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Cool. I want to switch gears a little bit because as well as being what I would say a Maven, an expert on end user adoption, I know personally that you are also a travel Maven. And someone that, you know, you and I have traveled together a bit and, you know, shared some wonderful experiences together. Do you have, for the road warrior, for, you know, just in general, sort of some tips and tricks that you might want to share with people? I know you have so many. So I'm like, maybe I should be a little bit more specific, but maybe about, you know, we've got shows coming up. We're actually sitting here at a SharePoint Saturday having a conversation. So just sort of maybe tips and tricks for conferences, things that, you know, come to mind for you.
Okay. Well, maybe not specific to conferences, but
Sure.
as soon as you said that, a conversation I actually had on the plane with the guy sitting next to me on the way over here came to mind. And there was two things that I see people confused about quite a bit. So number one, you're spending all of this time and money traveling. Research the mileage programs and the credit card programs to get points and miles and value from those investments you're making.
Right.
So you can take your family on a cool vacation or take a dream trip. Like, without even trying, I can take about 2 fully luxurious vacations a year. Like first class, business
sure.
class, 5-star hotels that I'm not paying for. It's just, you know, money I'm spending anyway on conferences and business travel being leveraged.
Right.
And to that point, the second tip is you get most of that from credit card spend. And a lot of people, there's this association that credit cards equal debt, and that's not true at all. You can have a credit card and you can pay it off in full every single month and not be charged any interest and be earning the points and miles from it.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, that's how you do it.
Right. So it's connecting sort of what you get sort of double points for. So say if you have a Chase and it's United and you're buying a United ticket or whatever, for the example, like what's connected to what gives you double the bang for the buck, a free bag, entrance in club, like all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it's really about what you want to get out of it. A trip for your family? Do you want to have more comfort on your existing business trips? All that's possible. And even if you just want to keep it super simple and get one well-rounded credit card and keep it simple, or you can be more complicated. Like, I think this is fun. And so, you know, I have one credit card that gives me the most points for airline tickets and one that I use for hotels and because of the bonus categories. But that's just because I find it fun and interesting and I like the math of it.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that you do. I mean, you definitely do that really, really well. Is there, I mean, just besides sort of looking up and, you know, reading about the different programs, do you think, is there any, besides, you know, sort of the things you write, because you write great things about that on your, like, Facebook and different places where you're always sharing information about, hey, if you want to know about this, check it out, you know. Are there other people that you look to as far as, like, travel kind of tips, or anybody Instagram-y or...
Yeah,
you know?
So, I mean, there's 2 blogs that I think are really the best. My favorite blog is called 1 Mile at a Time. And he travels around reviewing lounges and business and first class products. But he also has things like he's determined what he considers to be a value of points. So you can use it to check, like, oh, I'm gonna maybe get this redemption. Like, I'm gonna use my Alaska miles to fly on Cathay Pacific for first class. You can do the math and say, oh, I'm getting, 5 cents a mile value from that. And I go and check his valuations. He values Alaska points at 1.8 cents. Since 5 cents is higher than 1.8 cents, it's a good deal.
Sure.
So I use it as kind of a sanity check.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other one is probably the most famous blog out there. He's the one who's always on Good Morning America and stuff. And it's the Points Guy.
Yeah.
So he also has an app that's super useful on your phone where you can put in the credit cards that you have, and it'll tell you what credit card to use for what category. So
cool.
Use this credit card for airlines, use this for groceries, use this one to pay your gas. So you don't have to remember it all. You can just check the app.
Yeah, if it's easy, we'll do it, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Where are you, if you don't mind sharing, are there any place you're excited about going this year that you kind of made out of points and that kind of thing?
Well, I haven't exactly decided yet.
Well, you just got back from seeing the pandas. Oh my God,
I
we
just
haven't had
went
a
to
chance.
China.
I know, we haven't even talked about that. I was like, you're hugging pandas. I'm so jealous.
Yeah.
How was that?
Yeah, it was great. I really recommend you go to Chengdu, China, and visit the giant panda breeding center. I didn't go to the actual Chengdu breeding center because it's very touristy and there's a lot of people there. There's about 5 in the area, so I went to one of the other ones that I actually can't pronounce to this day.
Yeah.
And you can, pay $100 and be a panda volunteer for the day, where you actually get to clean their cages, hand feed them,
sure.
And really get up and close with the pandas, as well as learn a lot about them. Yeah, so I recommend doing that. I think you have to be 12 years old to do it, so it's great to do with teenagers as well.
That's cool. Well, how did you find the pandas?
It's funny, 1 mile at a time, that blog I like, he went there in maybe October, and was did all the research, documented the car service he used, how he booked it to get the lowest price, and I literally just copied his itinerary.
Really?
Yeah, I stayed at the same hotel because I was really busy and I didn't have time to plan the trip, and so I was like, I know I trust this guy, so I just took his trip.
That's fantastic. Hey, if it works, if it ain't broke,
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Very cool. So any future things you're looking into,
this year I'm trying to finish visiting all the U.S. states, I think.
Oh, okay.
So I'm going to use up some of my Alaska miles, checking those off and see. I want to, see our whole country maybe before I start seeing the rest of the countries I want to see.
Yeah, I road tripped a lot as a kid, so I've seen a lot of it. I think Alaska and Maine are some of the outliers for me. So
yeah, Maine. I need to go to Maine.
Yeah, it's so far, I guess.
And Alabama.
Oh, Alabama. Okay, awesome. Very cool. Well, right on. Thanks for the chat. You're such
always
a
pleasure.
I know. I'm such a great colleague and a friend. So it's always awesome to talk to folks who really, are experts at what they do, and that's what I'm really interested in sharing. And Erica definitely has such a great background and is such a great community person in SharePoint and Office 365, and is always sharing really cool travel tips, and she's a world traveler, and she's really experienced with doing all this fun stuff. I always learn things from you all the time. And
thank you.
Yeah, it's super fun. And lastly, I know, Erica's also very passionate, as am I, about women in technology, and so we work on that kind of stuff a lot together. And we're, a lot of the shows that are coming up, there's a lot of that, women in SharePoint, women in tech, and all of that stuff. I know. Have you been doing anything around that recently? And I know we've sort of talked about some things. I don't know. Is there anything coming up for you in that realm?
Well, something I do ongoing is just mentor college students.
Yeah. Okay. Right.
And I know I do it equally between men and women.
Perfect and wonderful.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So that just kind of helping the young people.
Cool.
Get ready for a real job in the real world outside of the ivory tower of academia.
Sure.
But I do find myself having a little bit different conversations with the women about, how to properly assert yourself in the workplace, or, stand up for your ideas or present them. Because I find they haven't been taught the skills yet for some reason, whereas the men have that come to them a little more naturally. I don't know if it's PC to say that, but it's just what I observe.
No, I think that's not wrong. You know, I do. And I think hopefully we're changing that all the time, but I do. There's I think there's just something about that, growing up in our education system, and our country.
Well, even when at the beginning of this podcast, when you were like, "Oh, describing me as an expert," it made me feel very uncomfortable.
See?
And,
I think you are, though. I mean,
right, but it's like hard to do this. It's still to this day, it's hard to do the self promotion.
Yeah.
You will,
well, yeah, I get it. Well, I think that I talk a lot about with folks when I do personal brand stuff, is that we talk a lot about the imposter theory.
Mm-hmm.
That we have this idea that we don't know what we're talking about, and that and some of life and business is smoke and mirrors, from the theatre, if you will. But I do feel like women tend to not give themselves enough credit and not realize that they are truly experts in our fields. And I do it sometimes too. Like, for a long time, I said, I'm just a theater major. Well, being a theater major in the technology world and what I'm doing gives me an edge and makes me different.
Right.
And I had some friends and some people very close to me point that out to me, and they were like, don't sell yourself short that way, And
it also makes you an excellent presenter. Entertaining and informative.
It does bring the jazz hands to the table, that's for sure. So anyway, well, cool. Thank you for doing that with the young people. I knew you did that, but I'd forgotten about it. That's super cool.
Yeah, it's honestly my favorite thing to do.
Yeah, that's rad. That's very awesome. And Erica has this huge, awesome background in music too, producing festivals. So you are an expert in lots of things. So yay, that's why you're on here. So awesome. All right. Well, thank you for joining me on the podcast.
Thanks for having me. It was great.
Yeah, you're very welcome, hon. All right. Signing off. Thanks, everybody. Always learning. Have a good day. The original music on this podcast was created by Jesse Case.